So there I am, lying on a table, eyes closed, and I watch a cat walk toward me. I don't open my eyes. I couldn't tell you how I'm seeing this, but I'm watching it deliberately, purposefully, move up my body and settle on my chest. There is no cat in the room. 3 years later, my dad got a black cat. This is the story of how I became a Reiki master, and that is genuinely the most normal thing I'm going to say today.
You're listening to Unbound Off Script. No outlines, no safety nets, just Beth Curry talking about whatever the hell she wants, or whatever the hell you've asked her to uncover. It's unfiltered, it's unpredictable, and it's officially started. Pull up a chair.
Hey, you beautiful, curious, slightly mystical humans. Welcome back to Unbound. This is an off-script episode, and it actually came from a listener request, which I absolutely love. As I put out there on social media, if there's anything you'd like me to talk about, something you're curious about, confused about, or just want my take on, send it to me. My email's in the show notes, and to make it fun, if I select your idea and turn it into an episode, I'll send you a $25 gift card as a thank you. So today we're diving into Reiki, the 7 chakras, intuition, energy. Very interesting personal story I still can't fully explain. But before we get into that, let's just settle in and get open to whatever this conversation or wherever this conversation takes us. I'm Beth Curry. I'm an author, podcast host, forensic investigator, though I'll be honest, I don't do a lot of that anymore, health coach, ordained minister, and apparently the person your very rational friend is going to send this episode to with absolutely zero context and a single question mark. So today, we're talking about Reiki, the fact that I am legitimately a certified Reiki master, which is a sentence I could not have predicted saying 15 years ago without immediately following it with nervous laughter and a subject change. So let's go. I know what you're thinking. Some of you anyway. You're thinking, Beth, you deal in evidence, in facts, in things that can be measured and documented and presented in court. What are you doing? And that is a completely fair question. So here's my answer. I contain multitudes. The ab-fab Walt Whitman said that. I'm borrowing it. Moving on. Also, and I mean this genuinely, the more I've learned about how the body works, how the nervous system kind of processes stress, how trauma gets stored somatically, how much of our experience operates below the level of conscious thought, the less far-fetched energy work starts to seem. But we'll get there. So I'm going to paint you a picture of who I was before any of this, okay? I was skeptical, not rudely skeptical, just genuinely, practically skeptical, right? I asked questions so much, literally everyone rolled their eyes when they saw me coming. You know, religion, health, anything at all. Everything I was told and like I just needed all of these things that I was told and taught to make sense to me. So I questioned it when it didn't. I believed in what I could see, measure, and explain, right? I believed in data. I believed in the body as a biological system, not a spiritual one. You know, I was the person at the dinner table who would say things like, I mean, I get why people find that comforting, in a tone that made it very clear I did not personally find it comforting. You know, I was, in other words, a delightful person at parties. And then gradually, and then all at once, as these things tend to go, my thinking started to shift. Not because someone convinced me with an argument, but because my own body started telling me something different. Okay? This part is for the skeptics in the back. Basics. Reiki is an energy healing practice that originated in Japan in the early 20th century. The word itself breaks down to Rei, meaning universal, and Ki, meaning life force energy. So literally, universal life force energy. Okay? The foundational premise is this. There's an energy that flows through all living things. You've all seen that microscopic video of when sperm meets egg, right? It's electric. It's energy. We are all energy. Everything is. When that energy flows freely, we tend to feel balanced and clear and well. And when it's blocked, like by stress or trauma or illness or grief or just the general chaos of being alive in 2026, things get stuck. And that stuckness shows up. It shows up in our bodies and in our emotions and in our patterns, right? So Reiki works by facilitating the movement of that energy. And what happens is a practitioner places their hands on or near the body, sometimes with light touch, sometimes just hovering, with the intention of supporting the body's natural ability to heal and rebalance. Now, I can hear you. Beth, that's not science. And here's what I'll say. You're not entirely wrong. Okay. The whole concept is nuttier than a fruitcake to me. And I say that as someone who is literally certified in it. Here's what we do know. The relaxation response is real. Okay. The connection between emotional states and physical health is real. The fact that presence and intention and touch have measurable effects on the nervous system is real. So whether you believe in universal life force energy or you believe in placebo, nervous system regulation and the power of intentional presence, something is happening on that table. Okay. I felt it. I've watched others feel it. And eventually I stopped needing to fully explain it in order to trust it. That was a big day for me. I'm going to talk chakras here. So there's 7 main ones, each connected to different parts of the body and different aspects of how we function physically, emotionally, and psychologically. Sorry. I'll run through them, but I want to give you more than, just a list of words that you've seen on a yoga studio wall, because honestly, this stuff kind of becomes a lot more interesting when it stops being abstract and starts being something that you can actually feel in your own body. And I say that from experience because I feel all of it physically, not conceptually, physically. So when I started really paying attention to my body and my energy, and especially since I started doing 9D breath work, which has honestly been a game changer for this kind of awareness, I kind of began to notice that I don't just feel things randomly. Okay, there's a pattern to it. It's almost like each part of me speaks a different language, and working with Reiki deepened that recognition in ways I didn't really expect. So I'm going to walk you through the 7 chakras. I'm going to tell you how I actually experience each one because I think that's more useful than a textbook definition. But just because I experience it that way doesn't mean that you will. So I'm going to start actually at the bottom. Normally we start at the top. I'm going to start at the bottom with the root chakra. So it's the base of the spine. So survival and safety and grounding. I notice this one as a sense of groundedness, or the lack of it. When I'm stable and present, it's like my body is heavy, but in a good way, like anchored. But when something's off, it shows up as restlessness, like I can't fully settle or land in myself. It's subtle, but once you know what you're looking for, it's very clearly there. Next up is the sacral chakra, and it's just below the navel. This is creativity, it's pleasure, it's emotion, it's flow. For me, this one feels fluid, like waves moving through me. Sometimes it's creativity or inspiration or maybe a pull toward connection. Other times it's emotions rising and shifting, not uncomfortable, just very alive. This one gets blocked a lot in people who've had to shut down their feelings to survive. If you've ever gone through a stretch where nothing felt fun or creative, nothing felt like you, your sacral was probably not thriving. Moving up from that is the solar plexus. This one's tripping me out lately. This is upper abdomen. It's a big one for a lot of people, and it's absolutely the big one for me. This is confidence. This is identity. This is personal power and boundaries, and very importantly, it's gut feelings, okay? That drop in your stomach, that zing, that's what it feels like to me. That instant reaction before you've even formed a thought about it, that's your solar plexus. What I've noticed, especially with people, is that this is where my intuition is loudest. I can meet someone and within seconds, I'll feel the shift. And I just know. I know if someone's being genuine or if something is off. Strangers, friends, family alike, I can tell. It's not something I think through. It's not judgment. It's a full body knowing, right? It's this gut reaction. And it's become something I trust deeply because it is rarely wrong. And believe me, I tested that theory a lot before I fully committed to trusting it. Next up is the heart chakra. This is the center of the chest. Love, yes, but also grief, compassion, connection, the ability to give and receive. For me, this one feels the most expansive when it's open, like warmth in my chest, a softness or a sense of connection, not just to people, but to like literally everything. And when it's not as open, I feel that too. It's more of a tightness, like I'm holding something in or protecting myself. It's one of the clearest emotional signals I have. I think also worth noting is that the heart chakra is the bridge between the lower three chakras, which are more physical and earthly, and the upper three, which are more expressive and spiritual, which makes it kind of a big deal. um, so moving up from the heart, we have the throat chakra. This is in the neck, the throat, the jaw. It's communication and it's truth and it's using your voice. This one is interesting because I feel it, when something wants to be said, it's almost like pressure or a catch in my throat, especially if I'm holding something back. And the moment I speak honestly or express what I've been keeping in, there's like this release, I've really felt this since writing the book and sharing it on the podcast. The Other Side of Quiet, season 3. Being able to actually tell my story. I was holding it for like over 30 years. And I felt this release, like speaking it out loud. It was like energy finally moving again. And I've spent significant portions of my life with a very unhappy throat chakra. I'd say this podcast is partly a throat chakra project, if I'm being honest. Moving up from that, we have the third eye. So this is the center of the forehead, between the brows. It's intuition, it's perception, it's the ability to see what's actually happening, versus what you've been told is happening, okay? For me, this one is less physical and more of kind of a quiet awareness. It's a knowing that just kind of appears. There's no overthinking. There's no analysis. Sometimes a slight pressure or focus in that area, but mostly it's, that sense of I just know, even when I can't explain why. This one tends to be either overactive, with obsessive thinking or can't turn the brain off, or underactive, completely disconnected from intuition, trusting nothing that can't be proven. I've been both, sometimes I've been both in the same week. Now, the last one is the crown chakra. It's the top of the head. It's a connection to something greater than yourself. This is the most subtle one for me. It's not a strong physical sensation, but more of a feeling of openness, like I'm kind of tapped into something bigger. It's calm, it's almost peaceful. And it usually shows up when I'm really still or really present. And when this one is flowing, there's a quality of trust that's hard to manufacture any other way. When it's alive and flowing, my scalp literally tingles. That's the most obvious sign for me, and it's wild. So when I feel that roller coaster drop in my stomach, I don't experience it as a random sensation anymore. It's a part of a bigger conversation happening within me, one piece of how my body and energy communicate. And especially when it comes to people, it kind of functions as an internal compass. It's one I've learned to trust. It reminds me that I'm not just sensing things on the surface, I'm tuned in on a much deeper level. And that's not something I could have said 10 years ago, That awareness built over time through Reiki, through practice, and yes, through things like the 9D breathwork that I will not shut up about ever, because it is life-changing, guys. Seriously, ask me about it if you want. But yeah, like these things, 9D, all of these things have a way of clearing out enough of that internal noise that the signals actually get through. Does that make sense? So how does someone like me end up as a Reiki master? It's a great question. I've asked myself this. It didn't happen overnight. It happened in layers. The way most meaningful things do, I guess, right? My introduction to Reiki was through receiving it. Someone I trusted suggested I try a session. This was during the pandemic, early during the pandemic. I went in with the energy of a person doing a friend a favor, I'd say, fully prepared to lie there politely, feeling nothing and leaving, having ticked a box, right? What actually happened was that I fell into the deepest state of relaxation I'd experienced in years. Not sleep, and I wasn't checked out either. It was something more like all the noise went quiet, and that absolutely got my attention. I went back, I kept going back, and I started noticing things. The way I felt after sessions versus before, the way my body responded to things differently when I was in that state of intentional stillness. The way I started to notice what was actually going on with me. Not the managed version or the version I presented to the world, but what was actually physically, emotionally happening. At some point, I thought, I want to be able to do this. I want to learn how. So I did my first level of Reiki training and then my second and eventually my third. Reiki master level. Each level involves what's called an attunement. This is a process where a Reiki master helps open your energy channels, essentially calibrating you to work with his energy more intentionally. I'll be honest with you, I went into my attunements the same way that I went into my first session, open-minded, but not expecting anything dramatic. Things got dramatic. What happened during my final Reiki attunement? I was lying down, the room was quiet, practitioner was moving through the process, eyes closed, doing my best to be present and not mentally reorganize my kitchen, and then something shifted. The quality of the experience changed in a way I can't fully articulate. It stopped feeling like imagination and started feeling more like perception, like something happening to me rather than being generated by me, if that makes sense. And then I saw a cat. Like, my eyes were closed. Everything was black, but I saw it with such clarity. It wasn't a flash of an image, it wasn't a passing thought shaped like a cat. I watched it. I watched it walk deliberately and unhurriedly up my body towards my chest, and I felt it with every step. I felt the literal weight of each paw. The specific purposeful movement of a cat that has somewhere to be and has decided that somewhere is you, right? And it settled on my chest and it laid down. I didn't open my eyes once. I have no explanation for how I was seeing this. I just was. And I didn't panic. I didn't try to logic my way out of it. I started wondering, like, if it was my old cat Jake, like, just visiting me on some weird spiritual, I don't know, because I loved that cat. He was like the best cat ever. And then I thought, well, is my spirit animal a black cat? Like, it was just, I had so many thoughts, but I just kept getting lost in them. And something in me went very still and thought, this is information. I don't know what kind yet, but this is information. Afterward, I told the practitioner what had happened, and she wasn't alarmed, not at all. Apparently, vivid sensory internal experiences during attunements aren't unusual at all. It's something about the energy channels opening up that can produce these states that don't behave like regular imagination, right? I filed it away. I thought about it occasionally. I couldn't do much with it. And then 3 years passed. And my dad adopted a black cat, just out of the blue, no build up. A black cat appeared in his life. And then less than 12 weeks later, my dad died and the cat came to us. So 3 years between that attunement and the moment she arrived and when she settled onto my chest, the first time she did it in real life, same weight, same deliberate stillness, same absolute certainty about her right to be there. I sat very quietly for a long moment. You can call it coincidence. You can call it pattern recognition by a grieving brain looking for meaning. You can call it something else entirely. I don't care. I'm not here to tell you what to call it. I'm just telling you what happened. So let's talk about animals for a second, because this is like one of my favorite parts of this whole world. Animals are extraordinary energy receptors, okay? Not because they're mystical, although I would argue some of them are, but because they don't have the thing that gets in our way. Right? They don't overthink it. They don't lie there going, is this real? Am I just relaxed? Should I be more skeptical? What would a rational person think about this? They feel something and they respond to it. Full stop. That's it. I've done Reiki with animals, and I will tell you, working with an animal is some of the most immediate, undeniable feedback you will ever get about whether something is actually happening, because they don't perform. They don't decide to seem relaxed because that's the polite thing to do in a Reiki session. They don't close their eyes and look peaceful because they feel like you need the validation. If the energy is landing, they soften and they settle and they move closer. If it's not, they leave, especially cats. Animals are very clear communicators when you stop asking them to use words. I had a session with my own cat during a period when she wasn't herself. This was just back in November, not even 6 months ago. She was actually fresh home from the vet. She had an incredibly high fever. I was desperate and worried, She had that particular kind of animal quiet that worries you because you can't ask them what's wrong and they can't tell you. So I sat with her and I placed my hands gently. I didn't try to fix anything. That's not really how this works. You just let the energy move, because that's what does the fixing. And she shifted, just kind of slowly. And over the course of about 10 minutes, she kind of came back to herself, more present, more alert, more like her. Was that Reiki? Was it comfort? nervous system co-regulation, simple act of someone sitting still with you and paying attention. Did her meds, she got an injection that day for her fever and stuff and for her possible infection. Did they kick in? I don't know. Probably some combination of all of those things. What I do know, though, those things are not separate, and they never were. So I want to talk about intuition for a sec, because this is where all of it, Reiki and chakras and energy work and the cat on my chest actually connects to your everyday life, whether you ever set foot in a Reiki session or not. Intuition is your body communicating information that your conscious mind has not processed yet. That's it. That's the whole damn thing. It's not magic. It's not woo. It's your nervous system doing an extraordinarily fast scan of a situation and picking up on micro expressions and patterns and inconsistencies and resonances and sending you a signal before your analytical brain has time to run the numbers, right? The signal usually shows up in your body, like that drop in your stomach if it's in the solar plexus, the tightness in your chest, the zing, the sudden sourceless certainty, that inexplicable urge to leave a room. People dismiss these things constantly. We've been trained to. We've been told that feelings aren't data, that if you can't explain something rationally, it doesn't count. I want to very gently push back on that. Your body has been collecting data your whole life, your whole entire life. Every experience you've ever had, every pattern you've noticed, every moment of danger or safety or connection or betrayal, it's all stored, not just in your memory, like in your tissues and in your nervous system, in the way that your jaw tightens in certain rooms and loosens in others. Intuition is your body accessing that archive. It's not infallible. It can be distorted by unresolved fear or old wounds or anxiety that's learned to disguise itself as instinct. That's real and worth noting. But the solution to that isn't really to stop listening to your body. The solution is to get better at distinguishing between the signal and the noise, right? Sorry. I've had people ask me what the difference is between intuition and anxiety. I get it most often once people start paying attention to their signals. How do I know if it's intuition or anxiety? Because they do feel similar, especially at first. Both show up in the body, both create a sense of urgency, both feel very convincing, and both will absolutely try to pass themselves off as the other when it's convenient. But the distinction that has been most useful for me, anxiety spirals, okay? Anxiety generates stories. It says like, what if, and then what if, and then what about this? And don't forget about the time when, it's recursive and it's loud and feeds on attention. And intuition doesn't do that. Intuition is quiet and it's direct. It doesn't argue. It doesn't perform. It just presents. It puts the information on the table and then waits calmly, like a cat who's decided you already know and is just giving you a moment to catch up. Anxiety lives in the future and intuition lives in the present moment. Anxiety wants you to react. Intuition invites you to notice. Okay? The more you practice stillness, meditation, Reiki, breath work, any practice that actually quiets the noise, the easier this distinction becomes. Because when everything is loud all the time, you can't hear the quiet things. And the quiet things are often the ones worth listening to, believe me. I became a Reiki master because I needed to. Not in a crisis way. In a quieter way, I'd say it's the way that you just move toward things that are calling you, even when you can't fully explain why. And what I found on the other side of that training and all the years of practice since is the body is not separate from the mind. The physical is not separate from the emotional. The rational is not opposition to the intuitive. These are false separations that we've been handed, and they don't actually serve us. You can be a critical thinker and trust your gut. You can be evidence-based and open to experiences that resist easy measurement, I'd say you can be grounded in reality and also believe that there's dimensions of experience that our current tools aren't fully equipped to explain. I believe in evidence, but I also believe that a cat walked up my body during an attunement and then arrived in my physical life 3 years later and has settled on my chest with the same weight and the same certainty every single day since. Both of those things are true for me. And what being a Reiki master has taught me more than any technique or certification or hour of practice is that you get to hold more than one kind of knowing at a time. You don't have to choose. You just be willing to get quiet enough to hear all of it, right? Since using Reiki personally and professionally with and without 9D breathwork, I have felt myself on a different vibrational level than others. I can tell when people are vibing with me, There's an exchange of this beautiful energy and we just fill each other up. There's no draining at all. But when someone is vibing below me, and sadly so many people are, I feel drained and I have a hard time wanting to be around them. Add to it that I'm an introvert and suffer immensely from this to begin with. I feel that the work I'm doing it, bringing and keeping my vibe up allows me to have these interactions. So maybe I can help others with a little lift that they so obviously need, right? I don't integrate well with society as it is right now. It's tired, it's robotic, it's sick, it's scared, it's negative, it's gossipy, it's ugly in general. Like it's angry. But I work on myself so that I can be around the ones I love who are suffering, Eventually, I'd love to bring them up with me. So whether you're deep into this world or just exploring it for the first time, I hope something in today's episode made you think or feel or notice something new within yourself. That's really all I ever want from these conversations. If you have a topic you'd like me to cover, don't forget to send it in. The email's in the show notes. And yes, there's a $25 gift card waiting if I choose yours. Thanks for being here, for listening, for keeping the space open and curious. And before I let you go, a few things I need from you, because apparently this is what we're doing now. Follow the show, rate it, review it. I'm not above begging. I've said it before. We're past that, long past that. Show is free if you want to support the production costs, because there are some, and I'm just paying for it all out of my pocket. Information is in the show notes for coffee for how to support. Ads might show up eventually. I'm not excited about it. Rather warn you now than ambush you mid-episode with someone trying to sell you a mattress. I think I've said that one before too. Maybe I should come up with a different product. I don't know. But you deserve the heads up anyway. Alrighty, that's it. I will see you next time.
You've been listening to Unbound, Off Script. The script remains missing. Authorities have been notified. Beth Curry is clocking out, turning off the lights, and pretending she didn't just say all of that out loud. If you want her to do it again on a different topic, let us know. Until next time, stay curious, stay raw, keep it unbound. She's gone.